globally, though COVID-19 has a great impact on businesses, the way we live, the way we conduct our businesses, some of the experts were talking about the good things that happen to our industry. I mean, logistics have come onto the forefront that every government, every individual has realized the importance of supply chain and logistics. It is a good thing that happened. So, in that background, and this is a black swan event, and there is no preparedness, like you said. There is no SOP for anybody to follow. Ministry of Commerce is coming up with a national logistics policy. The draft is ready. I believe the secretary has been asking some of the suggestions from the industry. So, as a large operator with the different verticals, do you have any suggestions? And especially in the post-COVID scenario, what are the changes you want to see in policy?
So I think again something that, like, we've had a lot of laws passed in India in the last maybe half a decade. I think this is another great concept that is long overdue. If you were to, and again I mean this with no disrespect at all, in the past, I think we were not, you can say, logistics industry, but it was a very loose word. Who formed a part of the industry? What qualified him, her, or the organization to be an industry player? Were there minimum standards? Were there health and safety related things in place? Were there systems in place? I think these are all things, if India really wants, and if we as a nation really wants to move away from the Jugadu mindset to really a real world dominant force in this case. I think these are all things that are long overdue, and this policy that's coming up as well is definitely one of them. Because one, I think the biggest thing that it's doing is defining the clear rule. What is logistics, or what is the industry? Who is part of the industry? So I think that itself is a big recognition that, listen, after all this while, we finally got one nodal, at least a document, to say that this is a policy or this is a framework that we are trying to put together. So I think that, firstly, I think that is a huge welcome step and a huge shot in the arm for the entire industry. Two, if you were to look at improvement or ways of improvement, I think the government has been, again, extremely proactive in getting, like you rightly said, getting everybody's feedback. There have been multiple rounds of discussions, multiple rounds of meetings to really try and get and take into account everybody's views. So it's not a one-sided or one-way heavy document. But if I was to look at, and I think again the challenge that India faces every once in a while, I think ideas are great, but somewhere the implementation gets a little muddled. So I think even in this case, my only request would be, I think a policy is great, but I think, can we also, along with this, once it's finalized, I think draw out a national logistics plan? Because I think a policy is to me, how I see it, and this would be just a personal view, is a framework document. Now, between the framework document and how it actually cascades to whatever XYZ things on the ground, I think there needs to be a lot of filling in the gaps or filling in the blanks there. So if we were, I think, in a position to first freeze and finalize the framework, my only request would be that get, again, maybe the same people who help frame it, or get industry involved like you have, get different parts of the government involved like you have, but actually start filling in the blanks piece by piece. Because I think if we're able to do it now, and the momentum in which the policy has been drawn up, been spoken about, been discussed, and if we get able to take that same momentum forward and really start filling in these blanks, I think then you will start to see a real sense of oneness, happening in this. Like if you were to look at, I think Korea has it, if I'm not mistaken, maybe another country where you actually have a clear framework in terms of, if you are a trucking company, what is your minimum? What are you? Are you a one truck owner? If you're a one truck, you have to have at least XYZ things in terms of insurance, in terms of, so what this does is professionalize the entire ecosystem. It's not just our industry, right? What are we doing? We're only serving trade. Now, if we do business with a couple of large chemical companies, for example, now they have very clearly spelled out health and safety norms. Now, because we have the experience of working with them in the Middle East, in Saudi, we work with them in UAE, we work with them in India, the same company, for example, we are able to bring in some of the best practices to whatever business we're doing for them, whether it's the tanks, the dry containers, or the road transport, and similar to even warehousing, what we do in the UAE. Whereas I think it's not the same across the industry. So I think we have to all realize that there has to be a sea change in how the industry looks at itself. It cannot just be, like I said, the Jugadu way. We are professionals. It's a professional industry. There is a set of requirements that we have to do to serve our customer. I think it's high time that we also take the onus. So I believe the whole logistics policy, the entire framework and the line of thinking of the government, I think it comes into this. And it's not dissimilar from your GST, from your e-way bill. I think all of it kind of comes in the same bucket to try and put some framework or put some guidelines to the larger industry so that everybody can benefit, the larger ecosystem can benefit. So I think that's how I look at it. So in terms of requests, I think it's going very well. It's a great initiative, but perhaps start rolling out an actual next level document in terms of how and what things should be done.
In fact, during lockdown, every organization, every institution suddenly realized the need for digitalization, and there was a mad rush to get onto digital initiatives. And people said that actually this scenario is accelerating digitalization. But you, in 2018, you started this digital initiative, and a little while ago, you were mentioning that you are seeing the results and fruits of it. So what do you think the future scenario, how things are going to be, and how does it help all the stakeholders, customers? Can you elaborate?
Yeah. So I think I've mentioned this story before, and I enjoy saying the story because I actually this is our entire philosophy, our entire funda, thought process, whatever you want to call it, is actually can be articulated very well with this story. It's a true story, but I'll admit I may be adding a little bit of extra masala here and there. But by and large, it's a true story. So I live when I'm in Bombay, I am in the same building as my grandmother, who is in her early 80s. Mm-hmm. And she lives with her mother, so my great-grandmother, who is about 96 or 97 as we speak. So this happened some time ago, and through conversation, I'll try translating in English. I may go into Tamil and I'll switch it back to English just to give the nuance of the story. So I was there one evening and I go very often. So whenever I'm in Bombay, I end up, before I leave for the office, I go and say hi in the morning and come back in the evening also. I come and just say hi, have a cup of coffee, gossip a little bit, and then go back to my house. So it was a very interesting conversation where my grandmother had her phone, and she was looking at whatever she was reading, and then my great grandmother came and said, let's eat. Can we eat something? What about dinner? So I was also there. So I said, okay, I'll figure it out. Tell me what you want. Let me sort it out. The same speed, my grandmother, just kind of took her phone. And as she was about to open, my great-grandmother says, Anda app tora, means open that app. And I'm wondering, what is she talking about? This is my 97-year-old great-grandmother, that time maybe 95, 94, talking to my grandmother. I said, what are you talking about? Then she said, Renda app, there are two apps. And I'm wondering, what is this conversation going on? My great-grandmother reminded my grandmother to open, I think it was Swiggy, to go to a particular restaurant and to order food. And then she is asking her daughter, have you paid with, have you linked your card and paid or not? Have you paid with your, using whatever, Google, whatever it's called, one of those things. And I was in shock because I am sitting here and it was one of those, long days in the office. You come back and then this, and you're sometimes in your own world. And then I heard this conversation. I was like zapped. I said, what just happened? And then I asked my grandmother, I said, what is this? Yeah, it's so easy. You don't know. Here, one button order, one button check, and it's already paid for. and then they come and deliver it. She's explaining this to me. So then this, it kind of struck me, what are they doing? It's logistics in a sense. It's a logistics supply chain process that is happening through an app. In this case, it's food delivery. Why is it that our industry is so traditional and refuses to give access to the information and refuses to give timely, accurate data and make it easy for people? Why is it always that information is sometimes not shared in time or not shared correctly or whatever? So this was the kind of funda that or eureka moment that kind of happened a few years ago. And then we of course went back and we had a chat with the team. We had a chat with the entire senior management team, and we started the process of looking at where we are digitally. Back then we had a legacy system built on Oracle, but it was a legacy system built in-house, multiple parts. Each vertical had a different piece of the software. No one spoke to each other. It was a very typical in-house ERP kind of, build as you go kind of model. So one of the first things we did, and we took a call, was to bring in somebody not from our industry to head our IT, to head our technology piece. So we got a gentleman in who had nothing to do with the shipping industry or logistics industry. He was from a manufacturing background, but this guy, and he's with us and driving the initiative now, had such a different way of looking at things. And we narrowed down and said, first we need to bring somebody like this on board. As we started, we went through the entire process of identifying where we are, what we would like to do, where we need to move. And that itself took us about a year, where we had several rounds of discussions with Oracles, with SAP, Microsoft, with XYZ, indigenous companies, all to try and understand how, at the end of the day, what can we do to make our customers' life easier. That is the fundamental point. And then we built and built and built backwards, and we realized that the best possible solution that we can do is something that we can work with Oracle. Yeah. Of course, it was a crazy project. It is still a crazy project because the length and breadth of the businesses that we have have essentially gone live on almost, except the NVOCC business, which is going live by August or September. We have actually gone live on all our businesses. Financially, everything is live. Operationally, except the NVO business, everything is live, and this is done in exactly 2 years. So the scale of it and the kind of efforts and the time and the cost behind it, I think we took a conscious decision to do all of this to ensure that we are ahead of the game. So today, when you have, if you were to take the NVO or the container side of the business, even though we have not gone live on the ERP, we have still built technology on top. Our entire coastal booking, our entire coastal and NVO, regional NVO platform can all be done through our app. Mm-hmm. All the information flow is through WhatsApp, if the desire is through that, or it continues through the app or the portal. Every single aspect of it, from EDOs to EBLs, all of it is now available and accessible. So the entire process, which was very much an offline process, has now transformed into an online process. For our global freight forwarding businesses, which we have now, the US entity is going live this week, next week, wherein our entire network, any rate, anything, at the click of a button, a customer will be able to get access to all the information, get access to whatever they need, get access to, even, like I said, we're even working with different payment gateways in due course that will come up. So what we have done is basically, in an ideal world, made our very, very unnecessarily complex industry like a Zomato or a Swiggy. So my grandmother can actually finally book a container in coastal if she wants, or book a forwarding container from the US to India or wherever it is. I think that's the endeavor. So it's a fairly long story, but what I'm trying to get to is, again, it's something that the industry, I think we have to take a conscious effort. In today's age, the end user is also changing, and therefore the requirements of having these things like, what is like track and trace? It's nothing great. It's not something that you should say, wow, I have track and trace. That is, in fact, today it should be a basic requirement. So I think we are also seeing that fundamentally the demographics are changing with our customers. The expectations in terms of digital technologies and tools are also changing as far as they are concerned. So I think this has allowed us to definitely be, I think, ahead of the game. We are fully on cloud. We are the largest Oracle implementation in our industry. I think almost world over is what they have told us. So these are all, I think, things that will hold us in good stead. But like you said, I think, like you asked, I think the industry itself, again, going back to the last question, the logistics policy, I think all of this is somewhere trying to prod everybody to say, can we step up? It's always easy to say that this is not there or that is not there, but I think let us also introspect. We did it as an organization. We took a very long, hard look at ourselves, introspected, and came up with the realization that, listen, this is something we are well short of. Therefore, we decided to work on it, and now we've reached a reasonable level.